Hey Alex, it's Dr. Scott. Excuse me. Have some feedback for you on your second essay. There's a bit of revision that's going to be needed for this assignment. There's some things here that you're doing that I think you can definitely build on, and I'll go through and kind of explain it. There are four kind of main criteria for the assignment. Thesis statement, organization, integrating sources, and using details from the murals to kind of support your thoughts. And you're in places doing some of that stuff. Well, I'll start with the thesis statement. It didn't feel like the first paragraph kind of set up what the rest of the paper was going to do. It told me what you were going to try to do, but it really doesn't come out, for me, it doesn't come out and kind of say, I'm making this claim, and here are the reasons that I have kind of supporting it. Later on, you write about, you quote the Conrad piece and talk about like what murals can teach people, and I think that that might be something to kind of build your essay around. And so like I was kind of playing around with what you might do as a revision to that thesis statement. Reduce the size of this so you can see it. But something like this, like the Portsmouth floodwall murals teach us that Portsmouth is proud of its history, and they do that through the use of, the colors that they use, or the positioning of characters, or showing us conflict, or however you think that that pride gets through, if that's the word that you want to use, or if you think that there's a different concept that you kind of want to organize your ideas around, like the struggle or the contrast between a difficult time and a happier time. Whatever you're going for there has to be some kind of discussion of the reasons, like the why, how they try to get that idea across. I think I called that the roadmap. The thesis needs a claim, or something like this. Effectively teaches us that Portsmouth is proud of its history. Like, we can debate that. Like, some might say, I don't think it does that great a job of it. But then it needs this part here. And that's where it's kind of, what the thesis statement is missing at this point. Okay, so there needs to be some kind of clear claim and clear reasons kind of supporting that claim. The paragraph here, I like that you're mentioning both murals in the same paragraph. A lot of folks, they wrote a paragraph about one mural and another paragraph about another mural. And that really does not work for this kind of an assignment. The thing is, like here, you're summarizing what's going on in the murals, and I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to be taken away from this. What's the thing? Is there a contrast here? Is there something that you're trying to, is there a bigger point here with this paragraph where you're kind of talking about some of these different details in these murals? What are we supposed to be learning from this description that you give us here? That wasn't very clear to me, and I think this paragraph may not make it through to the revision, so it might be, you might need to think about where you would put these details. So if you're trying to make an argument about how the murals kind of show progress in Portsmouth or something like that, I think you can use some of these details to do that. Here we get towards the end, and we have this like really kind of interesting idea about teaching, and for me it's like, what are these murals teaching us about this town? It's more than just the history of the town, right? It's also teaching us a way to kind of think or feel about the town, and I think that that's something you might be able to pick up on in the revision. Write about, like, they want us to think this way about the town. They also want us to know its history, but they want us to think this way about the town. Like, it's a town that's resilient, that it's strong, that it kind of bounces back from things, that it's addressed racism. Like, you'll need to think a bit about like what it is the town's really kind of trying to teach us. One of the pieces of feedback I have here with this quote, it's kind of an important quote, and it could kind of set up the essay. And so for me, it might make more sense to bring that to the introduction, and have in the introduction a little discussion about David Conrad, and then if your thesis statement follows that thread and says, I'm going to write about what these murals are trying to teach us about Portsmouth, I think it might make more sense to have this kind of information earlier in the paper. I thought around here, it seems like you're kind of just you're drafting, getting some ideas down, and that's fine for a draft. But this idea about hard work, like I think you're kind of getting into this paragraph, like this seems like more about your opinion, and that's great. I think this is starting to look more thesis-y, and what I'd kind of like you to do from here is to kind of figure out, after read this a few times, and kind of figure out, all right, what do you want to do overall in this paper? Like, what's the overall point that you're trying to make in this paper? I think you have something here, whether it's the hard work thing, or that, Portsmouth has dealt with racism in its past, or, that Portsmouth has shown itself to be strong because it's dealt with racism. Whatever you're trying to get at there, the claim for the overall essay needs to be a fair bit clearer. And the two murals kind of should be working together to kind of help forward that claim. So you want to think about, given the two murals you're looking at, or maybe you change the murals, what's the message that they're trying to convey? Do they convey it well? And then the important thing is, how do they convey it? Colors, shading, showing images of unity, showing us specific kinds of imagery. There's a lot of different ways that they kind of go about it, and that's kind of where the essay needs to go. Another important criteria for this assignment is the organization of ideas, and right now the essay is not there in that respect, and that'll come later. But there needs to be a reason of why your ideas are placed in the location you have them. Like, why are you going from a paragraph about this to a paragraph about that? That needs to be clear, and there needs to be transitions between those paragraphs to help your reader understand why they're moving from one idea to another. Quote integration was another thing that I was looking at, and it's kind of a no-no to go from your writing to a quote with no kind of setup and no transitioning between the two, and that's something that will need to get worked on. You also need to integrate more than one source. I think you needed two, and so there's David Conrad, there's also True Fight, there's also the documentary. Like, you could paraphrase that, I think, if you wanted to. So there's work to be done. I think you have some promising things, especially in this paragraph right here, that you can kind of build your thoughts around. We didn't have special topics today because I wanted to be able to talk to some folks about their essays. And I'm going to take you over to the grade here in a second. All right. But I'd like to be able to talk to you early next week, so on like Monday or Tuesday of next week, and I'll send you an email to try and set something up. But here's what I had as far as the rubric goes. Thesis statement, it's not there just yet. You've got bits and pieces of it all around, but I didn't really kind of see a statement that kind of took a stand and said this essay is going to kind of do this. Supporting details, you have some great details in places. It's not always clear like how those details are helping your overall paper. Organization, we don't have that just yet. There's not. It's not clear to me like why we have things placed in the way that they are. Source integration needs a bit of work, and you've got visuals in there. I like to see you nodding to the visuals and then kind of explaining, discussing specifics in the visual, but that's not there just yet. That's a smaller issue. Okay, so there's a fair bit of work to do. Happy to help you out. Let me meet with you on Monday or Tuesday. Maybe come prepared with some questions and be able to ask me about my feedback and talk about ideas you have for revision. Okay, that's it for now, Alex. I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.